Hello, this is Meghnad and you're watching Sansad Watch, where we tell you what the leaders you elected are doing for you. Let's start with a story. Meet Jitna Kuwar from Jagdishpur, Bihar. She died in 2019. Then her soul came out of her body and settled into Chato Devi from the same village. This year, Chato Devi, with the name of Jitna Kuwar, got a house sanctioned under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojna. 40,000 rupees were transferred to a bank account under this name by the government. You must be wondering, what is this guy smoking to come up with this fantastical tale? Well, see for yourself.
ये छठो देवी हैं। योजना की वेबसाइट पर छठो देवी की तस्वीर लाभार्थी के तौर पर दर्ज है, लेकिन जिस खाते में पैसा आया वो गांव की ही जितना कुंवर के नाम पर है। 19 दिसंबर 2019 को जितना कुंवर का निधन हो गया था। फिर 18 दिसंबर 2020 को उनके नाम पर सरकारी पैसा लिया गया। दरअसल ये खाता छठो देवी के आधार कार्ड पर खुलवाया गया था, लेकिन उस कार्ड पर नाम जितना कुंवर का था।
So, Jitna Kuwar, who is dead and had an account in UCO Bank, got a house sanctioned with a new account in the Bank of Baroda. And on the government website, the photos are of Chato Devi. You know what that means? Scam, 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 scam. Yep, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is a massive scheme which is riddled with petty corruption at multiple levels, which in turn means that implementation is terrible. Before we get to the fun part, let's start with the basics. We are going to answer 3 questions today. What is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and how does it work? How has this scheme performed since its launch? And what are the problems with it? First up, what is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and how does it work? काफी complicated, but मैं है ना. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana was launched in 2015 with the aim of providing a pakka house for all by 2022, which is next year. The scheme is split in 2 parts, PMAY Urban and PMAY Gramin. The Ministry of Urban Development looks after the urban part and the Ministry of Rural Development looks after the Gramin one. In PMAY Urban, there are 4 sub-schemes for different groups of people. Mota, it's like this. 1. The government gives assistance of 1 lakh rupees per unit to people below poverty level. 2. The government gives money for slum redevelopment by involving private players. 3. The government invests in affordable housing projects where 35% of the houses are reserved for economically weaker sections, EWS. And number 4, the government subsidizes home loans for families with incomes below 6 lakh per annum. Now, let's move on to the PMAY Gramin, which is focused on rural areas. The idea is to provide assistance to build houses up to 25 square meters. Per unit, the government provides 1.2 lakh rupees in plains and 1.3 lakh rupees in hilly and difficult areas. This is given in 3 installments, which is linked to the progress of the construction of the house. Another important thing, the houses built under PMAY have to be in the name of the female head of the household or jointly held with a male. That is mota the PM Awas Yojana. The government has implemented an Aadhaar-based direct benefit transfer system which forms the backbone of this scheme. Essentially, to avoid any sort of corruption, the money comes directly into the beneficiary's bank account. They are given the money in installments. Like, the first 40,000 rupees will be given to build the foundations. After that is done, the government will do a survey to see if the work is complete. If it is, then they will release the next 40,000 rupees. Then, after the next phase of work is complete, the final installment is released. At every stage, the beneficiary has to prove that the work has been done on the house before getting future installments. All of this is supposed to ensure 3 main things. No cash transactions, so there is a money trail which prevents corruption. The installments ensure that the house is actually constructed instead of people running away with the money. The houses are geotagged with photographs from the site so the government can keep a track of the overall progress of the scheme. All of this is supposed to happen. It looks good on paper, but it is riddled with problems. Which brings us to the second question. How has this scheme performed since launch? In 2014, if you remember, Modi ji was like, and some people were like, but मेरे पास तो घर ही नहीं है, तो मैं क्या करूं? So PMAY was launched on 25th June 2015 with a target of building 5 crore homes by the year 2022.
और इसलिए हमारा दायित्व बनता है कि हमारे गरीब परिवारों को घर मिले। आजादी के 75 साल हो रहे हैं 2022 में।
You see, the scheme was underperforming. With only a year and a half to go, the government reduced their target to 3.26 crore homes. This is like giving a maths exam and scoring 45 out of 100. But since your parents will scream at you for getting less marks, you cut out the 100 and say you scored 45 out of 60. Yay, problem solved. Har har Modi, ghar ghar Modi. Now, out of this revised target of 3.2 crore homes, the government has completed 67% of rural housing and 43% of urban housing as of July 2021. 113 lakh houses have been sanctioned by the government for construction under the PMAY Urban, out of which 87 lakh have been grounded and only 50 lakh have been completed till now. That's less than half. But hey, that's not going to stop our minister from bragging about stuff. हजरात हजरात हजरात, गौर फरमाइए, प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना अर्बन exceeds target. With 3.61 lakh homes being sanctioned at the CSMC meeting on 8 June 2021, 112.4 lakh homes now sanctioned against targeted 112 lakh under PM @Narendra Modi ji's visionary mission to provide #housing for all by 2022. Thanks. Sanctioned. Note the word sanctioned, not constructed. Okay, now let's look at PMAY Rural. In April this year, the government issued a press release saying 92% of the targets for the PMAY Gramin have been met. But that was only for phase 1 in a scheme which has 2 phases. When a parliamentary committee looked at it, they noted that out of the overall target, only 51% houses have been actually completed as of August 31st, 2020. You know, it's like attempting the first page of the question paper while ignoring the back page. And then when the marks come in, you tell your parents, हाँ तो first page पे 92% मिला है ना, तो problem क्या है? The committee also observed that out of the total 4.3 crore persons earmarked for the scheme, only 2.32 crore have become eligible after verification by the Gram Sabhas. Another important observation by the committee was that there was a strong possibility of a politically motivated approach in identification of beneficiaries. And that, my friends, brings us to our third and final question. What are the problems with this scheme? Just like the story of Jitna Kuwar and Chhato Devi I mentioned earlier, there are many cases of outright corruption within this scheme, especially in rural areas. In this case from Bihar, the village pradhans, bank officials and district administration of Jagdishpur formed a nexus. Using available Aadhaar numbers like that of a dead person, they opened bank accounts and applied for the housing scheme. Then approved the applicants for housing using a living person's photograph, and boom, money transferred to the account. We actually checked on the website by putting in the registration number of the deceased Jitna Kuwar and saw that 40,000 rupees was transferred to her account on 19 December 2020. I highly recommend you listen to our podcast Reporters Without Orders, where Basant spoke to Rajneesh Kumar, who uncovered this scam and explained how the system is being gamed. Now, there are several loopholes in this scheme which are being exploited by scammers. There have been reports of beneficiaries being recognized as dead people or NRIs, but the biggest one of them all involved these guys, Kapil and Dheeraj Wadhwan, who ran Diwan Housing Finance Limited or DHFL. A CBI investigation found that DHFL had defrauded the government to the tune of 14,000 crore rupees by creating fake home loan accounts, several of which were under the PMAY scheme. They claimed interest subsidies as per its rules and had a fun time and then went away and flew away. Now, one of the objectives of the PMAY is to provide affordable and livable housing, houses which have electricity, sanitation, and other basic amenities. But that is not the case. In 2020, the CAG conducted a physical verification of 590 houses listed as completed in 59 gram panchayats in Rajasthan. The committee found that 49% of these houses were without toilets, 61% did not have electricity, and 31% of the houses were not used for residential purposes. What's more, 32% of these houses surveyed did not have LPG connections. Ujjwala Yojna strikes again. Other than this, there is also a very basic problem of we don't have money to do this. Remember the part where I told you how money is being given in installments? Yeah. So turns out that in a lot of cases, people got the first installment, started building the houses, but the money stopped coming in after that. So now they're living in half-built shanty houses without any basic amenities. We found instances of this when we covered the West Bengal elections as well. I'll leave a link to the story below. Even in Maharashtra, out of the sanctioned 2.19 lakh houses, only 22,000 have been built. The rest are waiting for further money to be released. Just think about that. And this is not only the fault of the government. Some beneficiaries are not able to show progress in the construction of their houses, and urban local bodies are also not able to give certification for the release of future installments. So the construction is just stuck in a mess of bureaucratic red tape. So yeah, there are massive problems in this scheme and the completion target is a year away. If the government doesn't figure out a solution for this fast, this program might collapse like a house of cards. Or they can just reduce the target again and go, yay, we've done it, सबको घर मिल गया, page 1 पे 92% मिला है, full marks मिल गए. Thanks Modi ji. But hey, we are there to keep a track of it all and tell you about it, because that's what we do when you pay to keep news free. So subscribe. And now it's time for Know Your Neta. As per your request, we are going to talk about Imtiaz Jalil, an MP from Aurangabad constituency in Maharashtra. He is the second MP from the All India Majlis-e-Ittehadul Muslimin or AIMIM. The other MP from this party is Asaduddin Owaisi, who is the party boss. Before getting into politics, Imtiaz Jalil was working as a journalist. He worked at Lokmat Times, an English newspaper, for nearly 12 years. He then transitioned into broadcast media and joined NDTV's Pune bureau, where he stayed for another 12 years. So how did he get into politics? Well, the story he likes to tell is that he had resigned from his job at NDTV in Pune and had gone back to his hometown in Aurangabad, which was gripped by assembly election fever at that time. Just 22 days before the election, his friends asked him, since you have left your job, why don't you stand for elections? And he was like, yeah, sure, why not? Well, what gives the story the climatic end is that he did end up winning the elections from the Aurangabad central seat and became an MLA for the first time in 2014. As an MLA, his focus was on tackling problems pertaining to water supply, railways and healthcare. Jalil has also filed a ton of PILs throughout his career, be it to seek land for building a hospital, filling vacant positions in government hospitals, or voicing his concern against the Maratha reservation. Jalil then decided to stand for the General Assembly elections in 2019. He won with a thin margin of 4,000 votes to become Maharashtra's first Muslim Lok Sabha MP in the last 15 years. As a member of parliament, Jalil's performance has been quite impressive. He has participated in 37 debates this Lok Sabha session, which is significantly higher than the national average of 25. Apart from direct participation, he has also asked 189 questions, which is double the national average of 92. Having said all of that, Jalil has been involved in his fair share of controversies as well. Jalil led a protest outside the Aurangabad airport where they heard that writer Taslima Nasreen was coming to the city to visit the Ajanta Ellora caves. Nasreen, who had been assaulted in the past for her critical writing on Islam, was advised to turn back by the police. Jalil also seems to have little respect for COVID norms. The MP was seen enjoying a Qawwali night while violating the weekend lockdown and also staged a protest outside the Divisional Commissioner's office flouting COVID regulations. He was booked by the police for this and had to give an apology in the High Court as well. That's all I have for you in this week's Sansad Watch. Remember, if you want to make Parliament great again, you need to watch it first. See you next week.
We, being an independent platform, depend on our readers, viewers and listeners. Support independent media by subscribing to News Laundry. Go to newslaundry.com, click on the subscribe button at the top and pay to keep news free.